This video is going to be a little different than the previous ones that I've done. It's going to be less satirical and a little more, I guess you could say a little more serious, which means that I must really care about the subject, because very rarely am I completely serious about something. Today I'm going to talk to you about a liberal arts education. Now, those of you who know me really well know that matters having to do with college, particularly following the end of it, has been something that has been a significant stressor for me and even a source of depression in my life. Now, I'm not gonna bitch and complain about student loans and, you know, the financial aspect of it, although I could, but I don't think anyone wants to hear that. What I'm going to talk about, and you'll see the name of the video is called The Paradox of a Liberal Arts Education. Now, what do I mean by that paradox? I have a Bachelor of Arts. I was a liberal arts major. What does that mean today in modern terms? It means I majored in something, it was history for me, but it could mean political science, religious studies, philosophy, classics, you know, the abstract stuff. I could have done other things, but I really didn't want to. That's the point. In order to understand the point of studying liberal arts, or being a liberal arts major, being in that general school of thought, you really have to look at what it started as, like its origin, which goes all the way back to classical antiquity. And during classical antiquity, education obviously was completely different. In this case, people went to school or higher education for completely different reasons than we do today. During that time, it was something that people sought out as a form of personal enrichment. And the curriculum was somewhat different, but the point being that this was something that people did to enrich themselves, to look inward, to you know, decide what their values were going to be. And that manifests itself in the study today. That's why in a lot of liberal arts schools, or in that kind of educational sphere, the teaching method is highly Socratic. Small classrooms, conversations are dialectical. Just based on that, you can see that there's a lot of components of it that were around in classical antiquity that basically still are today. But obviously the civilization and society that we live in is tremendously different. This creates a conflict. In classical antiquity, it was something that was considered to be essential for a free person, to be a citizen. It was something, it basically oriented you inward, looking inward for truth, knowledge, wisdom, things that are really abstract and a lot of times hard to define. That's why I love it, though. I couldn't see myself, you know, studying any other kind of curriculum. Liberal arts is what I wanted, is what I enjoy. That's what my, you know, general sentiment was when I was a senior in high school. All I knew was that people were telling me the right thing to do was, you know, learn what you love learning. For me, it was history. Or, you know, don't do something just because, you know, you can make a lot of money doing it. And my parents were really proud of me. I got into a good school. I was proud of myself. So I figured, yeah, that's how I think. I love that abstract stuff. The older times, actually a lot of the sciences and arithmetic were part of the curriculum. Still is today. It's considered to be a separate kind of course of study. But anyway, you can start to see what the conflict is when it's all said and done. You're orienting yourself towards something that does not manifest itself in today's society as anything that has a lot of particular worth, at least career-wise. The idea is that you're not supposed to go into it with a vocation, or, you know, the idea of I'm gonna make a lot of money doing this when you're done. You're orienting yourself towards something that is not societally valued anymore. It's different today. People don't go to, the idea is just, for most people, is there, you go into college career-minded, like you with a set and not even necessarily with a set vocation in mind. It's something that you may figure out along the path, but the idea is it's going to be something that helps you with your career. It's not something that not something that most people do for personal enrichment anymore, because that would be fucking expensive. But therein lies the conflict. Okay, now some people do use the curriculum as a stepping stone towards a certain career, which I understand. Like, a lot of people will study political science or history or even philosophy and go on to law and things of that nature. But if you're doing it sort of out of the classical idea that you're learning what you love learning, you want to define yourself as a person and your values and flex your mind and make yourself a wiser, mentally stronger person, I mean, that'll make you happy to that end. But we don't live in a society that values that really anymore. The idea is to get that fucking money 24/7. Like, that's the point. Like, for a lot of people, like, I'm doing this because I like this, but when it's all said and done, I gotta get that fucking money. I gotta get this fucking paper, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta get promoted, I gotta get a raise, I gotta be a part of the fucking hamster wheel. In studying this, you're orienting yourself towards something that rejects that idea. That's the problem. The other problem is that, like, with people such as me, when you're young and you're naive, that, you know, you're not able to think that long term. I know that there are exceptions, but most kids don't understand the financial ramifications of their decisions in going to a good school like I did. And most of them don't really, you know, if your head's in the clouds, if you like to think in abstracts, you're probably not thinking that 4 years from now I'm going to be a telemarketer, or I'm going to be, you know, working at a call center, or doing something that is so mundane, banal, and trivial, and monotonous, and makes you hate yourself, you know, the eight hours of the day, that it's going to be a source of depression when you're done. That's the paradox, is that there's something contradictory. There's something innately contradictory about it. You're choosing a field of study that classically was meant to focus yourself inward on, and focus on the things that really matter in this short period of time that we have being alive. What does it mean to be human? You know, how should we live? How should we govern ourselves? And, you know, it keeps getting more and more abstract. That's how you learn to think. That's what you value. That's what you find important. And when it's all said and done, the general idea is still there, but it's not something that manifests itself in a form that has any real societal worth whatsoever, because we live in a consumerist society. But if you've gone through this study, you know that there are way more important things in life than, you know, a career. And I'm not, well, that might not even be necessarily true, but there's more important things in life than working because you need money, which is what you're going to be doing. Especially if you're like me and you went to a school that was expensive. So my first point of advice to those of you who are going to be idealistic and do what you love to learn, do it at a state school. The worth is just the same. Our society looks at that the same way. It's not something that benefits the people at the top of the social financial hierarchy, so it's not going to manifest itself as anything good for you. Also, like, it's hard to have a plan. Like my ideal profession would be a writer, but the other thing that you're looking at is that you're faced with the overwhelming feeling that even if you really do what it is that you want to do, especially if it's something creative, that it will never amount to anything. Even if you're good at it, even if you produce something that is, you know, has a lot of artistic merit or some other kind of merit or meaning, you're faced with the overwhelming odds that it's probably never going to amount to anything. With the way that everything is so commercialized, you're setting yourself up for depression by studying liberal arts, is what I'm trying to say. If you truly go at it from the classical perspective. And this isn't something that was really thought out for me when I did it. I just, you know, I was young, I knew what I liked to learn, and I went for it. Would I have wanted to study anything different in retrospect? Still no, because that's what I derive the most value from, for me personally. You really have to hope for some kind of complete social overhaul in order to be happy in that mindset. And the sad thing is that the people that lived thousands of years before us in this respect I think, were right. They were right. Like, there are more important things in life than what the majority of us are pursuing. I'm not trying to trash people who are, you know, bankers or whatever, something that the focus is getting a lot of money. I'm not, you know, I understand that. I'm just saying, you have a short time on this, you know, being alive. You really need to focus on true meaning, defining yourself, trying to figure out what you can, because life is a huge fucking mystery and you probably never figure out in its entirety. But chasing little pieces of paper that say Federal Reserve notes on them because you have to, because if you don't, KeyBank will send your dad a threatening letter saying that we're going to fuck with your credit score because you co-signed on your child's loans. It's fucked up. That's my point. It's fucked up. But it's a paradox. There's a contradiction there, but it ultimately suggests something true about the whole system. So, sorry about the lecture, but I wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't on my mind 24/7.